Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me. This is the Tell It Like It Is podcast, and I'm your host, Alexi Bailey. And I have a very special guest today, Miss Wendy Whitman.
Hi, Alexi.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for taking the time today to be with us.
Sure.
So let's start. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Portugal. I'm in Leiria, Portugal right now, but within another week, I'll be back in Lisbon.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So how did you get from New York City? I know you said you went to 11 countries. Like, where does this story begin?
Well, the story actually begins before I started traveling, because I love travel and I have a degree in anthropology, which when I was, working and raising my daughter, getting my degree in anthropology allowed me to do a lot of armchair traveling. And my profession, both as an acupuncturist and researcher and yoga teacher, didn't really allow me extended breaks because I had no paid vacation. So I did travel, but I didn't travel as much as I wanted to. So my plan was to have a bridge from my regular career to pre-retirement, where I would have another career of teaching English and traveling from country to country teaching English. I closed down my apartment and my practice and my jobs and everything 3.5 years ago. And that's early 2018. The first thing that I did was go to Nepal, and I did acupuncture in Nepal for 2.5 months. I just wanted to experience doing acupuncture abroad. And then I was fortunate because I had some really good friends in Canada that gave me a room in their home, because now I had nowhere to live in the States anymore. So they gave me a room in their home that I used sort of as my base, so that when I was taking my teaching English as a foreign language training and deciding what to do and where to go, I was in their home. And as Americans, were allowed to be in Canada for 6 months out of the year without visa. This is prior to COVID, of course, that, without a visa, you could just come and go. And because I was traveling so much, I was never there 6 months out of the year anyway. So that was the perfect home base for me. From there, I got an online TEFL degree. I signed up with a volunteer program and taught my first classes in conversational English in Poland, Hungary, and Czech Republic. And that was in fall of 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. Fall 2018. And then in early 2019, I went to Colombia and Ecuador, also teaching English.
So did you want to stay longer, or that's all you wanted?
I also had another thing that I was doing, which was exploring where I would like to ultimately retire. So because of that, I didn't want to stay longer. I wanted to experience as many countries as I could that were possible locations I might want to retire and narrow that down.
Wow.
So, so I really didn't want to stay longer. But then I got a full semester teaching in Thailand, and with my long-standing background in acupuncture and yoga, I wanted to be in Asia for longer, but it was hard because most places in Asia have pretty severe age restrictions, and I was even lucky to get into Thailand. Like Korea won't give you, South Korea, you can't get a work visa if you're over 52. And a lot of countries, they only hire people that are under 40 to teach English. It's just their prerogative and that's what they want. So it was pretty hard. I was really lucky to find an agency that placed me in Thailand for the semester.
Wow.
Yeah. And then just as I was finishing up in Thailand, I was starting to read about the lab in Wuhan, and that it was sort of, that there was this COVID thing that was somehow related to the lab in Wuhan, and then not knowing what was going to happen, my semester ended. I went to India to take a yoga training with someone who I had met in Nepal, actually. And I was in India like 4 days when it went into shutdown.
Wow.
And I just barely, one airport near me was closed, but I just barely got to another airport and got on a plane to Singapore.
So you left India right away?
Yeah, I was only there for 4 days because I knew if I stayed longer, I was going to get
Trapped.
closed in. Yeah, trapped.
Wow.
And I didn't want to be trapped in India. Because their healthcare system isn't,
Got it. Got it.
it's developed. So, and I didn't know what was going to be happening. So
Where did you land in India?
In southern India, I can't even remember the name of the city I landed in because I didn't stay there.
Yeah. So where were you trying to go in India?
The yoga training was in Puducherry.
Okay. So that got canceled.
It actually didn't get canceled, but only Indians were there, I think.
Right. That's smart. That's smart. You took it seriously from the jump. You said, this thing's gonna get way worse. Let me just get to a comfortable place.
Well, they were closing. When you know that the airports are closed, and if you don't leave, then you're going to be there for who knows how long.
Right. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I had to make a decision, and I didn't know anyone in India except the one Swami who,
So why Singapore?
So I felt like I needed to be somewhere where there was a little more support for me,
So why Singapore?
Because all the planes were canceled, and I was able to get onto a plane to Singapore. I'd been to Singapore. I knew Singapore was, if I got stuck in Singapore, I know they have a very developed healthcare system. I'd been there. I know I could stay there. I mean, it never occurred to me that I'd be someplace more than 3 months. But when I got to Singapore, most of their flights were getting canceled. However, I saw that there was that day 2 flights that I would have considered. One was to Bali and one was to Toronto, which is where my friend's house was. So that was a really big choice because I maybe would have liked to get stuck in Bali for 1.5 years. I have a friend who was there and is still there. She hasn't been able to get out safely. So she's been there since 2020. And
is she still stuck there, or is she by choice at this point?
I think it's a little of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided to go
back to Toronto because I had a space there.
How long were you in Singapore?
I only was there for the turnaround because Singapore was closing down too. I mean, I was there 2 hours till the plane to Toronto took off.
This is like a life-altering moment.
Yeah. It was quite a decision. Yeah, but that's the decision I made. I got to Canada. I spent a total of 9 months there. As an American, we're only legally allowed to be there for 6 months, but I was able to renew my visa for another 6 months. And during the time I was there, I was working on where I would go because I knew that absolutely after a year, I had to be out of Canada. I got the 6-month renewal, but there's no possibility of renewing it after that.
Right.
So, and I had been, debating where I wanted to settle, and I pretty much narrowed it down to Southern Europe or Southeast Asia would be the 2 regions of the world where I would like to retire. And then I really didn't have like all the options that one might have if it wasn't for coronavirus and all the closures and all of that. And I kept reading about what it takes to immigrate to the different countries that were of interest to me. Like I could have gone to Mexico or Ecuador, but I really had decided regionally where I wanted to go. And then it seemed like I had a good chance of getting a visa into Portugal despite the shutdown. So, and my next place where I was supposed to teach English was actually Portugal. I was serious about exploring Portugal, but I hadn't really made a decision. But I was signed up for a 3-month program to teach in Portugal, which would have started September 2020, but that program was canceled.
Okay.
And then I signed up for a program to teach in Spain, which was also canceled. So I got a visa. It was a lot of work, but I got a visa that allows me to live in Portugal. And now that I'm here, I have a 2-year temporary residency. And if I do what I need to do while I'm here, I can continue to renew it. So I have, assuming I, abide by all the rules of Portugal, I have the option of staying here permanently and eventually becoming a citizen.
Wow. I mean, Wendy, you're living the dream. I know a lot of people who love travel who's like salivating right now.
Yeah, I know, but it was really good before COVID. I have to say it was pretty amazing because I was going a lot of different places. It wasn't like all my expenses were covered because I was volunteering. So I had my flights and I had my expenses in between teaching positions, but you look at working less when you're older. If you're lucky, you can arrange your finances so that you work less as you're older. And I was able to do that. And so I was able to go to all those countries. Coming to a country that you've never been to before and you don't speak the language and you're here permanently or semi-permanently, it can be a little unsettling. It seems like it's the dream. And in a way, I mean, I'm not changing it. Like I could leave Portugal today, but I'm not. So I'm not complaining or changing it, but there's a lot. I'm trying to learn Portuguese. I'm trying to learn online. I signed up for classes. The COVID rate here went up. I didn't want to take the classes and be in a closed room with a lot of people. I didn't take the classes. I'm taking it online. I can't even volunteer because I don't speak the language. So like my interactions with people is really less. And I have a lot of things that I do at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm busy. It's not that I have nothing to do, but it can be challenging. Let me put it like that.
How long have you been in Portugal now?
I have been here 5 months. almost, since March.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
March.
So is the vaccine available in Portugal?
The vaccine is available and 70% of Portuguese are vaccinated. Every country has its own issues. I don't mean to put
Sure.
Portugal down in any way, but one of the issues in Portugal is responding, like getting government agencies and just people, they don't respond to emails, etc. So you need something in Portugal called a healthcare number, a numero utente, in order to get a vaccine, which is offered through the public healthcare. And because no one's responded to my request for my numero utente, I can't use the public healthcare system, so I can't get a vaccine yet. But 70% of the population is vaccinated.
Can't you just buy it or something?
No, it's distributed by the national healthcare.
Got it. Got it. So it's readily available, but you're missing the number.
I'm missing the number and I can't get it, even though I've applied for it.
So are you supposed to get like a card with the number or?
I don't really know. I do have like a residency card.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I don't
think
know.
you get a card with it eventually.
Yeah. I know some people would be, freaking out and stuff. I mean, I'm sure you can walk in somewhere and slip someone a 20 and say, just give me the vaccine,
They don't have access to it. It's only, I mean, I know people that have gone to their private doctors and can't get it from their doctor. It's only distributed through the national healthcare system.
Oh, wow. So it's on lock and key.
Yeah, no one has it but them.
Okay.
You
Well,
might be able to get an appointment if you slip someone something. I don't know, but it's not like you can go anywhere.
hopefully someone will see this and try to hook you up because it sounds like it's readily available and, you just slip through the cracks.
Yeah, a lot of recent immigrants are slipping through the cracks. So
All right. So it sounds like they're on top of it. So 5 months, you're walking around without the vaccine. You don't speak the language. Are you falling in love with the place?
Portugal is gorgeous. It is. I've never seen skies so blue. And I was on the beach, the southern coast, for 4 months.
Mhm.
One beach is more beautiful than the next. The water's too cold to swim, but the beaches themselves are just stunning between the rock formations and the caves and the.
And I've seen your pictures. It looks very like it's very much like in sync with nature and just like, that farm country living and animals and trees and yeah.
Yeah, there's farm animals like as soon as you get out of the towns. It's not like the US where it's one suburb after another after another. There's a town, even in Lisbon, there's areas where there's almost no buildings and there might be a goat or something right in the capital city.
Right. Okay. So are you thinking about staying or are you still deciding?
Well, I think my so far takeaway from coronavirus is living in the moment and not knowing what the future is going to hold. At this time, any country I might be interested in going to is still closed to Americans.
Right.
So why think about it?
Exactly. All right. I mean, it's definitely a time to pivot. You set out on this journey,
Yeah.
then COVID hit and you sound like you're still, it hasn't deterred you at all and you're still doing your thing. What inspired you to want this? Was it anthropology? Did you always want to travel? Was it?
I think there's two things. One is I always wanted to travel. And so I've traveled a fair amount even before this. And I went to some unusual places and some regular tourist places. So that's one, I wanted to travel more. And two, I think the US is a really horrible place to retire. We have one of the most violent countries, like in the World Peace Index, where they're ranking something like 200 countries, the US comes to 122.
Okay.
So that means 2/3 of the country, you're less likely to be a victim. 2/3 of the countries in the world, including, Rwanda, Dominican Republic, Sierra Leone, Laos, you're less likely to be a victim of violent crime than in the US.
That's convincing.
That's pretty intense. And the other thing is that our healthcare system in the US, according to the World Health Organization, is, and they ranked, I think, close to 200 countries. It's 37. So it's not at the bottom, but there's a lot that are better. And if you look at one of the issues in the US is distribution of healthcare. And so if you have healthcare from a good company, then you might have really top ranking healthcare. But like me, as a self-employed person, I had to buy my own insurance and it wasn't great insurance.
Right.
And I mean, I went to the hospital for emergency life-saving surgery and my insurance refused to pay for it. And I had to get a lawyer to get my insurance to pay for it. And that's crazy.
That is scary. Yeah. How long did it take with the lawyer?
I don't remember, but I think the lawyer worked on it for close to a year.
Before you got the surgery?
No, the surgery was an emergency. It saved my life. My appendix ruptured.
Oh, wow.
Like if I didn't go in immediately, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
So
Then the normal process, the hospital sends the bill, then my insurance doesn't pay it. So I had to get a lawyer and, that's not supposed to happen. It wasn't like I went in to get a facelift or a tummy tuck.
Right. Right. So do you think, did you always feel that way, or did these things tip you over the edge?
I think I always felt that way, but this made it personal. And the other thing was I started looking into Medicaid, because we have this thing, we think that when you get older, you get Medicaid and it's free and all your expenses are covered. But when you are old enough to get Medicaid, it's in tiers. And so hospitalization coverage is free, but to get doctors covered, you pay $148 a month, but that only covers 80%, and it doesn't cover medicines. And healthcare in the US is like double the cost of healthcare anywhere else, and quadruple the cost of healthcare in many places. So that 20% that you pay, despite having Medicare, is probably what you might pay in another country. Like I went to the doctor in Thailand because I had pain in my elbow, and they looked at it, they gave me an x-ray, they gave me a DVD of the x-ray, and I paid cash for it. It was $35.
Wow.
So, and I didn't have insurance. I had insurance for emergency, but I didn't even bother with it because $35 would be the copay, but that was the whole fee.
Wow.
So it's a lot less expensive in other places to get healthcare. And then if you want full healthcare with Medicaid, no, Medicare in the US. If you want it to cover 100%, you can get that, but it's like $750 a month, and that's it. Then you don't have copays, you don't have anything, but it's $750 a month with the average Social Security check is $1,500.
Wow.
So that means somebody can pay for their Medicaid and live on $750 a month, but who can live on $750 a month?
Exactly. Wendy, where were you born and raised?
I grew up in Chicago.
Okay. So you grew up typical American girl. What was that like?
Well, I grew up in the city of Chicago. I don't know if I was a typical American girl or not. I'm a product of the 60s. I mean, I've been going on peace marches since I was in my little red wagon on the marches.
So your parents were involved?
No, my older brothers and my uncle.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what was it like growing up in that time?
It was kind of weird because my parents were like going with the program and my brothers were dragging me out of the program.
Right.
So I had a lot of internal questions about what is this world? How can I be in this family where these people are so different, you know?
Right. Do you have any stories?
Do I have any stories?
Yeah, like what do you remember? Like what was going on? I mean, like your brother's taking you to peace marches. I know Chicago had a lot of things going on. The
Yeah.
60s in Chicago was a lot of things. So like
You want to know about politics from the eyes of a small child?
yeah, I mean, like what do you remember? What you know, they're going to peace marches, the 60s and the 70s. It sounds like they were, you know, a part of the civil rights
Yeah.
movement, and you're witnessing stuff. So I'm just trying to get a sense of, you know, what you were seeing. And
Well, I remember going, the first march I remember going on, I must have been 6, if I can place it. And it was for school desegregation. And because Chicago is like a really totally segregated city.
right.
And so where we lived was all white people, and the South Side was all Black people. And there was like one little pocket of Chicago that was integrated. And there was one little pocket of Chicago that was Mexican. And the rest of the city was either white or Black. And there wasn't like really much mixing at all. So I remember the march for the busing, and I just, you know, I mean, I was a kid. I didn't really.
So how did you, so 6 years old, you're seeing segregation.
Mhm.
Your brother's taking you to marches. Like looking at the timeline, talk to me about the timeline out of that.
Okay, so then I became aware really quickly that I had experiences that other kids in my class didn't have because of my older brothers. And I think things kind of, to my eye, I mean, I was a kid, to my eye, things stayed kind of like that. But the Democratic Convention was in 68, the one where the police were macing and clubbing people in the streets. And so that I remember pretty dramatically because my brothers were out in the street.
So Wendy, just let me frame this for you, okay?
Okay.
I am 40 years old, born in 1981, right?
Okay.
So I experienced these things in documentaries, on the pages of books, you know. And if you ask me, Alexi, how many people have talked to you in real life about these things? I would say 0. So
Okay.
it's not something that you hear
Sorry, I
about.
have to move here.
Okay. It's something that I believe happened 100%,
Uh-huh.
but no one, I mean, no one black has ever spoken to me about it. No one white has ever like really said, this is what it was like for me, And
Mhm.
documentaries, I don't know, the average person, I would say if they've seen 10, that would be a lot.
Mhm.
So when I'm asking you, I think you have a clear picture in your mind. So I'm kind of like saying, just tell me more, because there's a million questions I can ask. So I'm kind of saying,
Okay. First of all, I was 12. I
right,
was not allowed to go out of the house during the convention. Um, my brothers were out there. One of my brothers was maced, and he was in medical school at the time. And so he went out there like to help people that were clubbed and things like that. But he kept getting mace and he kept vomiting. So he lost like 5 pounds in that week, and he was skinny before the thing started. So for him to lose 5 pounds was significant, but because of the mace. My other brother was a little more peripheral to it. And my uncle was actually, he was a delegate in the convention. So it was like this family dynamic of my brother at that point representing working outside the system, which of course changed eventually, and my uncle representing working inside the system as a delegate for the convention.
what was the issue at the convention? Was it an integration thing?
Oh gosh, I don't, I was 12, I don't remember.
Fast forward to high school. You went to an all-white high school?
No, by then I was so, it dragged me so out of the scene that I ended up in the suburbs for a little bit because my parents wanted to get me out of the city because I was getting crazy. And then
Was it teenage crazy or political crazy?
I think political crazy. And I ended up choosing a mixed school, and then I went to an independent school called the Free School of Evanston,
Okay.
and I went there for 2 years, and that was like an alternative education that was much more flexible, so that was a little better for me. And I actually only went there 2 years, and then I started college a year early. I somehow managed to get into college when I was 17. So, and the free school was also people that were very politically oriented too, but their way of expressing it was through education, because there was like a lot of books coming out at that time, like Summerhill or How Children Learn and How Children Fail, and just pedagogy of the oppressed. I mean, there were a lot of alternative education theories coming out at that time. And so the people in the school were very interested in those theories. And as a 15-year-old that entered independently without my parents, I was able to participate in, conversations about what we wanted at the school. Actually, I think all the older kids were able to be in conversations we had from kindergarten through high school in that school.
So much of what I want to do with the podcast is exactly what you're doing now, highlight the personal narrative, right? Because
Mhm.
something took place the way your parents grew up and what they were taught that made them the way they was, right?
Mhm.
You are now growing up with the same parents, getting the messages that they got, and your brothers were able to kind of see an alternate way. And
Mhm.
so much of this is the American story, right? We
Mhm.
had the right things on paper, but people had to fight for it to be actualized, and people
Mhm.
are still fighting for it to be actualized. And so much of that struggle is continuing. So when I say that, I think we need to keep talking about it so that we understand that, someone was putting their life on the line for this, for us to be where we are today.
Mhm.
Reality is we have to continue putting our life on the line so that we can move forward. Um,
Mm.
and I think this generation we're more in a place of, people don't want to put their lives on the line, so to speak. And I think we were more conscious back then.
I think it was a significantly safer world back then. The 50s in the US, although I don't remember the 50s, but the 50s and the early 60s was very prosperous. If you had a factory job, you could afford a home. And so
And that's with mom staying home.
uh, I'm not certain, but now it's like, what is the gig meant? The gig economy. It means you have no health insurance and no benefits. That's the gig economy.
Right.
And so more and more people are on this gig economy where they're scared if they don't work, they're going to fall through the system altogether.
You don't
And
work.
that wasn't the same back then.
Right.
And that really affects people's mentality. The insecurity that people have now makes it really hard to be political, because if you get clubbed or maced now, you lose work, you get homeless, but back then you would have a gap where you could heal. And
Go back to work.
yeah.
That's an important point. That insecurity is real, and there's a lot of people out there with good jobs who think they're comfortable, but they're still on the edge of that security as well.
Mm-hmm.
That insecurity is very much day to day, paycheck to paycheck for most of us, even those who are graduate level and doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, d- did your parents change their mindset over time?
um a little, yeah. I mean, they watched their kids, and I mean, I gave them a run for their money, but they came around a little bit. Yeah, they did good. That was the inner advocating within the family. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, and there a lot of what we call woke people are challenging their family and trying to push the needle forward because you love them and they love you, and that's
Hmm.
a fight, so to speak. How is your daughter now?
She's doing okay.
So is she gonna stay American?
Yeah, for the time being.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's her choice. And I don't, like, her father is from Mali. So, but she doesn't have Malian
Hmm.
um, IDs or anything. Um, so she could have automatically had that, but I guess he didn't feel that that was that important for her. And I could help her get into Portugal, but not really, because the family reunification, I mean, she's 22 now, so she's an adult.
Hmm.
So,
How do you feel with her as an American in America with everything you feel about America? Like, do you think she's fine? Like, do you warn her about stuff?
well, I don't have to warn her. She's very aware. Yeah, I worry about her.
With
Um,
concern at this point.
well, my daughter is female. She's mixed race, so she's considered Black. She has ancestry that's both Jewish and Muslim. Just about anybody that likes to hate on people has something to hate on her about. So I worry about her, but she's doing okay. She finished college, she's starting law school. So she's doing okay. Let me see if my computer will stop making these weird noises. Okay, there we go. Yeah, but she's doing okay.
So, I mean, so again, the podcast keeps coming back to so this is it, right? This is why I do this, right? I've had so many conversations. You just start talking to people and they're like, yeah, how's your daughter doing? And they're like, yeah, I'm worried about hate. And I'm like, okay, this is America who's going around the world trying to stop hate and terrorism and this and that. And, but the reality is, there's so many things in America that we really need to be more honest about. So tell it like it is that honest conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, we, even in a place like New York City that's so liberal, you're still worried about hate.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to talk about it. We kind of have this thing where America's the number one, America's great, make
Yeah,
America great again. And then when you look at the statistics, you're like, well, we're number 37, we're number 122, and
right.
we're not safe, and there's hate, and there's racism. And you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't, what does great mean? And you start to feel like, does this mean the GDP? We have a great.
Right.
So the point is to have these conversations and to let people be serious and be more conscious about what's really going on.
Yeah, that's right now I'm having a little debate inside myself about that because um I could have stayed in the US and had a much harder life and taken maybe more action against that, or I could have just gone out and tried to have a decent life for myself. And I made the choice to go out and try and have a decent life for myself because I really didn't feel I didn't feel like I was going to have a good life as an older person in the US. I looked at all the numbers and I was like, I'll be lucky if I get through this. So I made a selfish decision, but I do feel some guilt about it. I feel like one of my friends who's my age is now running for a local office with the Green Party. And,
You want a shout out?
excuse me?
Want to give her a shout out?
Yeah, sure. Oh,
Who is she? Is she running?
she's running in upstate New York. I don't know what the position is. Her name's Neva Wortel.
All right, well, shout to her. She's here doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
you think you'd like to talk to her?
I mean, sure. So much. Well, one of the things is that the work is happening, right? And a lot of people like myself, we may not know all the things, but I think we need better systems so that we know the opposition is very organized, and
Right.
the people who support the people, we need to be better organized. We need to put our money where our mouth is. We need to have websites that centralize us a little more. I believe in social media for activists. Something, the work is still needs to be done. And in the 21st century, we need 21st century tools. So
Mm-hmm.
for sure, I definitely want to use my platform to highlight the people who are doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good.
So what is your daughter passionate about?
Um, She's very passionate about the rights of people of color. And she's also passionate about gender issues.
Yeah. I talk to my friends all the time, and they know that I get a little preachy because I'm all into activism and all of these things.
Mhm.
And it's so crazy about the hate. Like the hate is very strong. And the thing about it is that, they've weaponized media, right? They've weaponized information. So people aren't really thinking anymore. They're just kind of spewing out these data points, and they're not really thinking about what they're saying and how this is affecting America, the country. If you have politicians who are saying things that are leading to mass shootings, that's a serious problem.
Yes, definitely.
So those kinds of things gets me very fired up, because if a politician can say it, then anyone with a mental health issue is going to repeat it and go off, and like it's definitely not safe.
Mhm.
So to me, I just keep highlighting those kinds of things. And the fact is we have microaggressions. You have AOC, who's always fighting for women, and this whole gender thing, transgender, binary. It's like people are confused.
Mhm.
So really what I try to do is to have honest, open conversations. And yes, I know it's difficult, but you can't just vote and walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that living in a culture like that where there's so much issues and so much hatred is that as much as we might be woke as adults, if you grew up there, you were a baby there. So you were getting all these subliminal messages before you could process. So once you learn to process, then you're like in the driver's seat, hopefully, with your behaviors. But some of that early conditioning is still there. You can't totally eliminate it.
Well, one of my biggest concerns is that, when people get to a point when they're most powerful, they've either retired or they're now in a comfortable position at work. That's when you're best able to give your time, your platform, your money to help this cause. But I think, people are more selfish and more less, like the people with the good healthcare are not out there fighting, risking it. They're the ones
Right.
sitting at home reading the New York Times and just kind of watching this thing happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What got you into Reiki, acupuncture, yoga?
Um, I think I took a yoga class when I was 16, just like exercise yoga.
Mhm.
And I didn't really think about it that much. But then I started doing yoga regularly. Um, I explained I had two brothers when I was growing up, and one of my brothers passed away when I was like 25.
Oh, sorry.
So, yeah. And so at that point, I did a lot of yoga and meditation and just to get myself
Grounded.
back together because it was really, really hard for me.
Was this the
And um,
or the
then
political?
one thing led to a next.
Was it the brother that was political or the one that was in the doctor?
The doctor was the more political one, but my other brother was a psychologist and he was political too, but he was just more mellow.
Okay.
Like he was the type to walk around with flowers and yeah, he was just very mellow about it. So that he was the one that passed away. So I started doing yoga regularly at that point. And then I started experimenting because that was like the 80s when it was the beginning of the New Age movement.
Right.
And so all this stuff was going on with crystals and herbs and acupuncture and aura balancing. And so I just started doing everything out of curiosity. Like, and when I got acupuncture, the first time I got acupuncture, I was like, wow, that fixed things I didn't even know were broken.
Wow.
I am going to do this one day. So that's how I got into it. Because I just went for the experience. I didn't even think I had a complaint. I was just going to find out what acupuncture was. And once I experienced it, I was like, wow, I was supposed to feel like this all along. I didn't even know that, you know?
Was it a form of awakening, you would say?
Not that one. That one was just more balancing, like a lot of my emotional, the distance that I had from myself and others, from having grown up in a divided household. It started, like I started just feeling much better and much more connected to myself at that time, from those treatments. And I changed a lot. People that I met that saw me like a year or two later didn't even recognize me because my whole aura changed at
Wow.
that time. Yeah.
So it was the combination of the yoga and the acupuncture.
Yeah.
Reiki?
Not then, not at that point. But meditation. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. All right. All right. So Wendy, let's take a brief break. Thank you.
Okay.
We're gonna come back with part 2 and get some more. This has been great so far, and we'll be right back.
Okay. All right.